Greetings, Mavericks and new viewers. Tonight, direct and live from the Maverick News Network World Studios. This is Maverick News with Rick Walker.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Maverick News Channel. Big news day today. Again, the news dominated by the President of the United States, Donald Trump, who addressed the United Nations, who has done a complete 180 in many respects on the Ukraine issue and the way he's approaching that conflict. What else is going on? And then there's more Trump news as he meets with Macron. Mark Carney, also at the UN today, co-hosting a session with Volodymyr Zelensky. And Zelensky also had to pull aside a separate meeting with Trump. What else is going on? Oh, the Universal Ostrich Farm. That whole circus continues out in British Columbia, and oh my, and then there's just more Trump. I don't know how he does it. He just seems to dominate the headlines day after day after day after day after day. Today, even more so. And we'll dig into it when we come back on the other side. Oh, and Jimmy Kimmel. He's going to be back, but not everywhere. Stay with me.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are Maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News. Defending free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching. Maverick News. Fighting for freedom.
Okay, we're back. Now, I had stuff lined up. Here we are. We're going to start just briefly with what's going on out at that BC ostrich farm. Universal Ostrich Farms, where the standoff between the protesters and the Canadian Food Inspection Agency continues, with Katie Pasitny and her mom being arrested earlier today. That was, I think, inevitable, given what has been going on out there. We have a live feed out of the farm right now where the CFIA wants to come in and cull the 398 remaining ostriches. We've covered this fairly extensively here on the channel. Here's the live feed out of there right now. Now, they've been, as you see, Katie and her mom have been released in custody. Looks like they're back at the farm. I'm not sure if there were restrictions placed on them preventing them from coming back, but it looks like they're there now. I think the farm now is behind police tape.
This is Karen, who's now out on conditions.
I guess we didn't see a politician here, right? I was wondering.
I don't get any understanding for them. I'd let you listen, but I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
You know, that's just Jim Crow. They lied a couple times to us already.
He don't lie.
You don't lie. Hi. You don't lie. You're beautiful blue eyes.
This is what we're doing. Can I have a word with you? You can have a word with me. Absolutely.
And they are behind caution tape there now. Live feed resuming. It was frozen up there for a moment. RCMP liaison officer speaking again.
I can do that. I can do that.
What the protesters have been doing is they've been trying
Yes.
to get companies that have been renting equipment
Okay, fair enough.
like fencing and vehicles
They give me
to
the direction, and if it makes
government.
sense and it's following the law, I'm going to follow it every single time. So I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. And I got to tell you, I was a little bit worried yesterday when I went off without my helmet because I figured they'd call me on it, and they didn't. So I did it again. But I guess I'm going to have to find a helmet now. What a game, huh? What a game.
So they've been trying to get these companies renting equipment to the CFIA to withdraw their services. Today there was hay being delivered to.
This is the other side of the pens. This is where we usually are. This is where they know we are. So they make sure that they set it all up far out of sight so that you can't see the reality of the situation here. They don't want you to know the reality of the situation.
I believe the cull is taking place as we speak.
Yeah, they're probably hungry because they didn't get fed out here. Yeah, no, they didn't. They fed out in the back, but they didn't feed these ones.
Anyway, there was hay being delivered. Not really clear exactly what happened.
In the back fields, but they only fed them 11. They're supposed to feed them 13 buckets, and they only fed them 9. And
they
have not been fed.
The protesters have been putting pressure, getting people to call these companies, to put pressure on the companies to withdraw services. The hay delivery that the trucks bringing the hay in. We were told that
from here clearly you can't see any of the nefarious behavior.
We were told that the trucks turned around and went back, but hay was delivered. So I'm not sure ultimately who brought hay in and so on. But the hay, I guess there's speculation that it is going to be used to lay down on the ground as the birds are potentially euthanized.
Could you imagine? They let the farmer test them. They're sick, and then they're justified. They're off the hook. CFIA.
So the conflict continues out there, and the protesters are still there, but they've now been pushed back behind this caution tape. The owners of the farm told that they were allowed to stay on the premises overnight. They could sleep there, but they were told they had to leave this morning. And then they were still locked in the pen. There was an ongoing lengthy discussion again today with police and Katie Pasitny and her mom inside the pen, where they were trying to get them to exit the pen and go over to speak with the CFIA, Canadian Food Inspection Agency officials, so that they didn't have to be arrested. They refused. Ultimately, they were taken into custody. It isn't clear if I don't know what charges actually they may be facing at this point, but I guess they have been released with conditions. They're back out at the farm, but they're behind the yellow caution tape. because the property has been secured. A warrant was presented. They conducted a search of the premises.
Perfect. Want to make sure that absolutely. I appreciate that. See that? These gentlemen aren't always against us. As soon as we let them know what our concern was.
RCMB just said, because Jeff was yelling at them, because Jeff used his voice, now we might get the birds fed. You know, if they didn't feed the birds, it would be contravening the Animal Health Act, which says they got to be fed till the day they're called. Weird, right? Yeah, we got to make sure they're happy and fed by the time they get to... Hold on a second. Lori. Yay, Lori. Good to see you. Good to see you. My wife bought one of your hats with the, and I've still got mine from you, the top hat. It went down the river.
So they're all still out there, and it is not clear at this point exactly what stage they're at with regard to euthanizing the ostriches, which the CFIA says pose a hazard to public health and certainly to, and I guess more not what's the right word? More importantly, that they pose some sort of a hazard to the agricultural industry and specifically the poultry industry, because they may be infected and carrying the avian flu virus, a rare form of it, which is what the prior testing indicated was present in the flock, where 69 of the ostriches were killed. Now, I've had people messaging me today, quite distraught. One person in particular telling me, no birds died, Rick. What are you talking about? No, 69 ostriches died from the avian flu. There was testing done on the premises on multiple birds, on the carcasses, and the presence of the avian flu was confirmed in that way. Not every single bird was tested. That is true, but they did confirm the presence of the disease on the property. Now, there's been a lot of selective information being shared out there, which I would say has been at times very misleading. And as I've indicated before, we did extensive work on this story in the previous weeks and months. And if you are really interested in getting the full story, I encourage you to go back and watch that material. But there we have hours and hours and hours of content, which will help you further understand what is really going on out at that farm. And I would say that the person who told me earlier today that none of those birds died as a result of the virus knew full well that they did, but has really just been trying to push my buttons, knowing that it's a lie and knowing how much I detest lies. Now, that being said, we have other news to dig into today. I will continue to monitor what's going on out there through the duration of tonight's broadcast, but we have a lot of other news to cover beyond the circus that is continuing out at the Universal Ostrich Farm in Edgewood, British Columbia, where the Canadian Food Inspection Agency is on site as we speak, preparing to cull those 398 remaining ostriches as part of their attempt to enforce the law and enforce the government policy that is going to result in the culling, the euthanizing of these birds to prevent the spread, they say, of the avian flu virus. Opinions vary, but it's highly politicized, and it doesn't look like the calls by the farm owners, Donald Trump, to intervene and save the ostriches is going to carry any weight at the end of the day, because I've heard not a peep out of the prominent MAGA politicians and bureaucrats and the Trump administration, or the president himself today, on this issue, even though they've weighed in previous days, weeks, and months. So right now, the Canadian government asserting its authority out at the farm. And we'll dig into other top news stories of the day on the other side of this.
You know, someone very profoundly once said many years ago that if fascism ever comes to America, it'll come in the name of liberalism.
Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on Earth.
The entire world is watching.
Every dictator, every crazy dictator in the world is watching. The world is watching. On TV,
the entire world is watching.
On social media.
But the entire world is watching, and yes, they are seeing what we have apparently bravely been willing to say that others are thinking.
Stand for freedom. Literally stand for freedom. Let's get this done. The entire world is watching.
We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars.
Maverick News. Maverick News. Maverick News.
Let me have more control of my own destiny.
The world is watching.
President Trump making headlines worldwide again today, speaking at the United Nations. And he was pulling no punches, speaking very plainly as he addressed world leaders at the UN. He had some separate meetings with Vladimir Zelensky, with Macron, and right now he is hosting a multilateral, or at least participating in a multilateral meeting. It looks like he's hosting it. He's sitting at the head of the table, or the head of the table, the round table discussion, although it's not round, it's rectangular. But these world leaders are there. He's participating in this multilateral meeting. We have this clip coming out of the meeting as they began just a short time ago at the United Nations. Here's what he had to say as this meeting began.
So this is going to be a very important meeting. It's going to be a meeting with great leaders from a very important part of our planet, the Middle East. And we want to end the war in Gaza. We're going to end it. We're going to end it. Maybe we can end it right now. But they're respected all over the world. They're respected by me in the Oval Office, I can tell you that. They're respected by the United States, and we're here to see if we can get the hostages back and get the war over and get back to life in the Middle East, which is a beautiful life, but it's much more beautiful without wars, right? So I really greatly respect the fact that you're here. And we're going to get it done. We're going to have a meeting. If we can agree to something, I'm going to see the people in Israel, including Bibi, and we're going to get something done because it's gone on too long. And we want it to end, and we want to get those hostages back too. We've gotten most of them back. Right now they have 20 hostages and 38 dead bodies. And the parents of those young people that were killed and are right now in body bags, they want their son or daughter back just as much as they wanted them as though they were alive. We have to get them back. We have to get the 38 back, and we have to get the 20 back. And I think we'll be able to do it. This is the group that can do it. More than any other group in the world, this is the group that can do it. So it's an honor to be with you. And we appreciate it. To me, the job you've done is incredible. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, Mr. President, if you don't mind, on behalf of everyone, first of all, thank you very much for hosting such an important meeting, such an important time. I think I'll just make it very brief. The only reason we're here is to stop the war and bring the hostages back. And we count on you and your leadership as well to end this war and to help the people of Gaza. The situation is very, very, very bad there. So we are here to meet and to do everything we can to stop this war and to bring the hostages back. So once again, Mr. President, thank you very much for hosting everybody.
Well, and also a great speech you made today. Really, I watched it. A really great speech. Thank you very much. And you too, my friend. Great speech. You did a great job pounding on that table. I said, how would you like to deal with him when you left? It's not easy. You did a great job. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. We're going to work very hard on this. This is my most important meeting. I've had important meetings. I don't want to insult anybody that we've met with. I had 32 meetings here. But this is the one that's very important to me because we're going to end something that should have probably never started. Thank you very much, everybody. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Press. Thank you, Press.
Thank you, Press.
Thank you, Press. Okay, so that's ongoing right now. And that's the way those meetings work because I know because I've been in those situations. So before the meetings start, they bring the media in. It's a photo op. Sometimes it's a pool feed. That's what they call it. Not every camera is allowed in or every video camera. Quite often, the material is then shared afterward. But that's why you get what you get there. They made this brief statement, then it's closed door session. So what's going on right now, not being televised or broadcast on social media, they're talking in camera or behind closed doors, and we don't know what's being said, but it is obviously a very important meeting, maybe pivotal. Who knows? Maybe they'll get more accomplished there than they have in a long time at the UN. Trump, very critical today of everything going on at the UN, pulled no punches, as I say. He was very, very critical of the United Nations during his address there and spent a lot of his time speaking about himself and the United States, and also about the 7 wars that he says he has brought to an end. Now, let me bring this up if I can. Here we go. And we're going to get into the Ukraine stuff because I think that is the most significant development out of everything that happened today. But he starts kind of here on the foreign policy front with this is what he said about the 7 wars he says that he has brought to an end with no help from the United Nations.
Likewise, in a period of just 7 months, I have ended 7 unendable wars. They said they were unendable. You're never going to get them solved. Some were going for 31 years, 2 of them, 31, think of it, 31 years. One was 36 years. One was 28 years. I ended 7 wars. And in all cases, they were raging with countless thousands of people being killed. This includes Cambodia and Thailand, Kosovo and Serbia, the Congo and Rwanda, a vicious, violent war that was, Pakistan and India, Israel and Iran, Egypt and Ethiopia, and Armenia and Azerbaijan. It included all of them. No president or prime minister, and for that matter, no other country has ever done anything close to that. And I did it in just 7 months. It's never happened before. There's never been anything like that. I'm very honored to have done it. It's too bad that I had to do these things instead of the United Nations doing them. And sadly, in all cases, the United Nations did not even try to help in any of them. I ended 7 wars, dealt with the leaders of each and every one of these countries, and never even received a phone call from the United Nations offering to help in finalizing the deal. All I got from the United Nations was an escalator that on the way up stopped right in the middle. If the First Lady wasn't in great shape, she would have fallen. But she's in great shape. We're both in good shape. We both stood. And then a teleprompter that didn't work. These are the two things I got from the United Nations, a bad escalator and a bad teleprompter. Thank you very much. And by the way, it's working now. It just went on. Thank you. I think I should just do it the other way. It's easier. Thank you very much. Save millions of lives. That is the saving and stopping of these wars. But later I realized that the United Nations wasn't there for us. They weren't there. I thought of it really after the fact, not during these negotiations, which were not easy. That being the case, what is the purpose of the United Nations? The UN has such tremendous potential. I've always said it. It has such tremendous, tremendous potential. But it's not even coming close to living up to that potential. For the most part, at least for now, all they seem to do is write a really strongly worded letter and then never follow that letter up. It's empty words, and empty words don't solve war. The only thing that solves war and wars is action.
So highly, highly critical of the UN today. His rhetoric got even more abrasive at times. But here he is addressing what happened with regard to Iran and Operation Midnight Hammer, the U.S. operation to take out the Iranian nuclear program.
There is no more serious danger to our planet today than the most powerful and destructive weapons ever devised by man, of which the United States, as you know, has many. Just as I did in my first term, I've made containing these threats a top priority, starting with the nation of Iran. My position is very simple. The world's #1 sponsor of terror can never be allowed to possess the most dangerous weapon. That's why shortly after taking office, I sent the so-called Supreme Leader a letter making a generous offer. I extended a pledge of full cooperation in exchange for a suspension of Iran's nuclear program. The regime's answer was to continue their constant threats to their neighbors and U.S. interests throughout the region.
No, he didn't stop there. Not by a long shot. He says that in the event that Russia is not ready to make a deal to end its war with Ukraine, the United States is fully prepared to impose a very strong round of powerful tariffs, a threat that he has made multiple times, but so far have not really materialized in the way that he has threatened. He says those tariffs, to be effective, though, can only be effective if European nations stop funding the war for Russia by buying Russian oil. Hang on a second. That's not the feed. I don't believe that's the right one. Maybe it is. Here we go. Okay.
China and India are the primary funders of the ongoing war by continuing to purchase Russian oil. But inexcusably, even NATO countries have not cut off much Russian energy and Russian energy products, which, as you know, I found out about 2 weeks ago, and I wasn't happy. Think of it. They're funding the war against themselves. Who the hell ever heard of that one? In the event that Russia is not ready to make a deal to end the war, then the United States is fully prepared to impose a very strong round of powerful tariffs, which would stop the bloodshed, I believe, very quickly. But for those tariffs to be effective, European nations, all of you are gathered here right now, would have to join us in adopting the exact same measures. I mean, you're much closer to the city. We have an ocean in between. You're right there. And Europe has to step it up. They can't be doing what they're doing. They're buying oil and gas from Russia while they're fighting Russia. It's embarrassing to them, and it was very embarrassing to them when I found out about it, I can tell you that. They have to immediately cease all energy purchases from Russia. Otherwise, we're all wasting a lot of time. So I'm ready to discuss this. We're going to discuss it today with the European nations, all gathered here. I'm sure they're thrilled to hear me speak about it, but that's the way it is. I like to speak my mind and speak the truth.
The reality is that when you get into these wars, a lot of strange things like that always happen, where companies from warring nations often end up doing business with each other, or a company in one of the countries will be doing business even with the government of the other country. Or even now, if you look at what Russia has been doing with regard to the sale of energy to Europe, pipelines running through Ukraine, Russia has been paying fees to Ukraine in order to keep those pipelines operational, to keep the energy flowing to Europe. So there have been fees paid even as the two countries are at war. So it's a very weird situation when you get into these wars, because sometimes business continues to be conducted. That was even the case during World War II, when American companies were, in some cases, doing business right up until, the moments of war, and, some suggestions that even during the war, there was some degree of commerce taking place between warring nations. So it's never as black and white as people think it is. And then when you go back and you look at the history of all of this, I've seen those kinds of business transactions be exploited or used to make political arguments decades later with regard to these wars, even World War II and Germany and the United States. And a lot of people point to companies like Ford or General Motors, or, and I'm reaching back trying to remember all of my history with regard to that. Certainly Ford was involved in sales of, I'm pretty sure it was Ford. Yeah, it was Ford to Germany leading up to World War II. So a lot of people say, oh, look, Henry Ford's a Nazi. Well, arguments to be made and history to be interpreted in any way you wish. Let's take a little break. When we come back, we're going to keep on with today's Trump newscast on the other side of it.
Greetings, brave mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals. Defenders of individual rights and freedoms. Credible. Trusted. Grounded in reality. Maverick News. Maverick News. Defending free speech. Free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, so Trump, as I say, his language became even more and more aggressive as the speech seemed to go on. And here he is telling these, he was talking a lot about immigration, the invasion of the United States. Everything with Trump is extreme in his rhetoric. Of course, it was like the worst under Biden, and now it's the best it can ever be. There were like 200, how many millions of people did he say? 25 million illegal immigrants under Biden. And since he has secured the Mexico-U.S. border, it has been for months now 0. So from that to 0, and who knows what the truth is when Trump is speaking, but these were the claims that he made. And here he is telling these world leaders at the UN General Assembly today that their countries are going to hell.
You have to end it now. Sid, I can tell you. I'm really good at this stuff. Your countries are going to hell. In America, we've taken bold action to swiftly shut down uncontrolled migration. You have to end it now. Sid, I can tell you. I'm really good at this stuff.
So that's diplomacy Trump style. I don't know how that goes over. Well, yes, I do. A lot of people don't like it, but seems to be working for him on at least some level. Now, I think the most significant thing, though, after all of this, was what he has said about Ukraine, because he has really, it's a serious pivot on the issue. This is a president who basically called Zelensky into the White House and let J.D. Vance run up one side of him and down the other, try to humiliate Zelensky on the world stage in that meeting in the Oval Office. And now here we are just some months later, and Trump has changed his tune from "there's no way you're ever going to get the land back, you have to give up now," to today saying this. He says that Ukraine, now that he understands the issue better, it's pretty clear to him that Ukraine could get all of its land back. He says in this Truth Social post after speaking with Zelensky at the UN, he says, after getting to know and fully understand the Ukraine-Russia military and economic situation, this is what he posts on Truth today. And after seeing the economic trouble it is causing Russia, I think Ukraine, with the support of the European Union, is in a position to fight and win, all caps, all of Ukraine back in its original form. That's a complete reversal. Well, almost complete. The only thing that would make the reversal totally complete is if he was committing more U.S. support, but he's still putting it over. He's putting Europe on the hot seat with regard to this. He says with time, but he says they can win it all back. He never said that before. His position was quite the opposite. With time, patience, and the financial support of Europe, and in particular NATO, the original borders from where this war started is very much an option. Why not? Russia has been fighting aimlessly for 3.5 years, a war that should have taken a real military power less than a week to win. This is not distinguishing Russia. In fact, it is very much making them look like a paper tiger. Wow, that's a big change in rhetoric. When the people living in Moscow and all of the great cities, towns, and districts all throughout Russia find out what is really going on with this war, the fact that it's almost impossible for them to get gasoline through the long lines that are being formed and all of the other things that are taking place in their war economy, where most of their money is being spent on fighting Ukraine, which has great spirit and only getting better. Ukraine would be able to take back their country in its original form. And who knows, maybe even go further than that. Putin and Russia are in big economic trouble, and this is the time for Ukraine to act. In any event, I wish both countries well. We will continue to supply weapons to NATO, for NATO, to do what they want with them. Good luck to all. And the rhetoric from Trump today with regard to NATO, too, that seems to have been pretty supportive. So the tone is changing. What a difference a day makes with the President of the United States. Says one thing one day and something completely different the next, and then claims to be consistent. It is always an adventure. Maybe that's why he's able to dominate the headlines, because you just never know what you're going to get. It's like he's the Forrest Gump of presidents, with Donald Trump, it's like you have a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. And that was certainly the case today. And then he had this pull aside with Macron. I should say too, this pivot, what a victory for Volodymyr Zelensky. And what a testament to that guy's resolve, his professionalism, his tolerance, his patience, his maturity. I have to say that. How many other people? I don't know of a very high, I can't think of anybody really who would put up with what he put up with in the White House that day and just continue to chip away at rebuilding a relationship with Trump after that, which, it was clearly some sort of an ambush that had been set up by the people in the MAGA circle that, let me take a break here and I'll see what this call is about and we'll come back on the other side.
Greetings, brave mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals. Defenders of individual rights and freedoms. Credible. Trusted. Grounded in reality. Maverick News. Defending free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching. Maverick News. The world is watching.
So further to my comments, I'm just saying that it's pretty clear Zelensky has a skilled team around him who have been advising him on how to approach this. As a result, he's been able to keep Trump stay within Trump's orbit and continue to keep dialogue open. And it paid off today in the long run. So he has some very skilled people, I would say, around him, Zelensky, advising him on how to handle this. And on the diplomacy front, I would say Ukraine has done a pretty effective job in keeping the United States engaged with what the policies and the approach to this war has been from the beginning of this Trump 2.0 administration. So it's a lesson in diplomacy, I think, for other countries, other world leaders to look at what Ukraine has done in this regard. I'm actually amazed that Zelensky has been able to keep his cool and keep the lines of communication open. It's been a master course, I think, for others in the field of public service to take note of. Whether you agree or disagree with the war one way or the other, it's been something to witness. And it continues. It continues tonight. The world is a different place with Trump in the White House. And I don't know if you saw the clips. I don't have this queued up, but as Macron was heading to the UN building for this session, the French leader, his motorcade was stopped because Trump's motorcade was coming through, and so Macron couldn't get to where he wanted to get. So he picks up the phone, and there's video of it out there, and he calls up Trump, and he's talking to Trump about how he can't get his car through to get to where he wants to go, and he's sort of joking about it. It's also an interesting clip. It gives you a little bit of insight into the way these guys are able to just call each other, how they've basically got direct lines because they have each other's phone numbers, and just bam, I'm going to call up Trump while he's about to drive by, blocking my motorcade. They didn't let Macron's motorcade through. They did let him through with some people so he could walk. So there's video of that. It was an interesting moment, a candid moment that gives us insight into the relationship between the two. And it seems to be very cordial, very, very interesting stuff. And in that phone call, Macron asked Trump if he could have an aside meeting with him at the UN today, and he did. Trump said, okay. And as you heard Trump say, he had well over 30 meetings today alone, 30. Every one of them we could cover, and it would be an important highlight from today's news. But this one in particular, I think, is significant. So we're going to run a little clip from this one too.
It's a great honor to be with a friend of mine, Emmanuel Macron, President of France. He's doing a really good job. He's fighting hard. He's fighting on a lot of fronts. He's helping with regard to the Russia-Ukraine catastrophe. And his words of wisdom mean a lot. And we've been friends for a long time now, really, from the first term on. And I appreciate you being here. It's really nice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm very happy to have the opportunity to exchange with President Trump and our teams. And indeed, we have a lot of things to do together, and especially fix these crazy wars we have. And I just saw the message you issued after your meeting with President Zelensky, and I think it's a very right one. I mean, if we back concretely Ukraine in this situation, given the Russian economy is suffering, I mean, there is this opportunity of a good future.
It is.
So we will back it.
I think so. They're very enthusiastic in a lot of ways. And it's been a terrible war. It should have ended. And Russia should have stopped it. But they've been 3.5 years and they've gotten not so far. So we'll see what happens. But the other side can fight too. And they've proven that. Maybe it could be that Russia's a paper tiger. I don't know what they are, but 3.5 years of fighting and killing everybody, of killing 7,000 people a week for nothing. So it's a very sad situation, but most of you have seen the recent statement I put out a little while ago. And I'm glad you got it. But I feel that way. I really do feel that way. Let them get their land back.
Yep.
So we'll see how it all works out. And in the meantime, I hear France is doing well, and you're doing well. And he's been my friend, and we've gotten along on just about every subject there is to get along with, other than on occasion wine. I say, wouldn't you like to pay a couple of dollars to put the wine in? into America, but we've always treated you good, right?
We will try to fix all these issues, but we had very good discussions. And I think peace as an objective everywhere, in Ukraine as the Middle East, is a common objective we have. So we will work hard on that.
Emmanuel has actually helped me with a couple of the wars. We settled 7 wars. The biggest disappointment, but I think that'll happen eventually, is the Ukraine and Russia situation. But we've settled. I thought that was going to be the easiest one because of my relationship with Putin, but unfortunately that's it. Relationship didn't mean anything, unfortunately. But when I needed some advice and when I needed some help in terms of a country in that part of the world, you were always there. And you helped me settle some of these 7 wars. I'm very proud of the 7 wars, but you helped me settle them, and I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions for the President?
President Macron just said that if you want the Nobel Prize, you should put an end to the war in Gaza. What's your response to that?
Well, they say that all together. I mean, it's Gaza, it's Russia, it's everything. I think Gaza's going to come along. We're going to have a very important meeting, and my next meeting actually is going to be very important with leaders in the region. And we're going to talk about Gaza. We're going to see if we can do something about it. We want to stop that. We want to get our hostages back, or their hostages back. We've gotten all of the American hostages, as you know. And Alexander, all of them have been back. Steve Witkoff's done a great job. And Marco always, and everybody. I mean, we have Scott got involved and strongly involved, and from a financial standpoint, we're doing some things that are pretty good. We put Iran out of commission, very important. That was called the bully of the Middle East, and they're out of commission. Now we're going to have a meeting today. I think it's going to be a successful meeting with all of the leaders of many of the biggest, I would say the most important countries having to do with Gaza, indirectly and directly. And that's going to take place just in a little while. So I'm sure you'll be there, and we could have an outcome very quickly.
What is the recognition of Palestine as a gift to Hamas?
Well, I think it honors Hamas, and you can't do that because of October 7th. You just can't do that. But we want our hostages back, and we don't want them back in 1s and 2s and take the next 2 years to do it. We were the ones that got the hostages back. And I always said, I told Steve, I told Marco, I was always saying the last hostages are going to be the toughest ones. But you can't honor them by doing anything like you suggest. All you can do is say, we want our hostages back, and we want the war to end. We're going to want it to end. But you always have to remember, people forget October 7th was one of the most savage days in the history of the world. There's never been anything like that. We're talking about babies being sliced in half. You're talking about young children having their heads chopped off. You can't forget that.
Would you recognize Palestine if the hostages
And just
were back?
perhaps to make it clear on that, I think it's why yesterday 11 countries did recognize Palestine. Not as, I mean, it was not a decision taken like that, neither by UK, nor by Canada, nor by France. It's just a big change. President Trump is totally right. Nobody forgets the 7th of October. I went there a few days after, taking families in my hands, and we experienced all together these horrific attacks. And by the way, we lost a lot of French people in these terrorist attacks. But after almost 2 years of war, what is the result? Once again, they killed the top leaders of Hamas. It works. This is a great achievement. But at the same time, you have as many Hamas fighters as you had the first day. So it doesn't work to dismantle the Hamas. This is not the right way to proceed. So we need a full-fledged process, and we worked very hard on the day after, and I totally share this sequencing. The release of all hostages, the ceasefire, the resume of humanitarian aid, the day after in Gaza to stabilize the land. And we need a political perspective, and this is why we took this decision on recognition.
Well, I have to say that I'm on the side of Israel. I've been on the side of Israel really my whole life. And we are going to get a solution, and it's going to be a solution hopefully that's good for everybody. But it's time to stop. We're going to have that very important meeting. I think the meeting we have coming up in The next hour is going to be one of the most important meetings that we'll have here. Now, we've had some important meetings. We've had some great meetings, and I understand where you are and where other people are too. And we just have to get this solved. We have to get the hostages back. We want to get the war over. That's very important. We're going to end the war, get the hostages back, and we want them all back. We don't want to have one and then we'll give another two in about 3 months from now. We've been doing that for a long time. And in all fairness, we've gotten a lot of hostages back. But you have 20 hostages and you have probably 38 bodies, dead bodies. And the people that I see, and I speak to Israeli families. I was speaking to American families before, but we got them back. But I speak to Israeli families, and they want the son who died. They want their dead son back as much as though he were alive. And it's an amazing thing to see, and it's a horrible thing actually to witness, but I've seen it a lot. So they have 20 hostages, they have 38 dead bodies, and we have to have them back, and we have to have them back immediately. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Brad.
Okay. I let that roll because that exchange has been making a lot of headlines on its own, touching on Gaza, touching on Ukraine, and Macron, a major player with regard to both of those conflicts. Carney, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, and Volodymyr Zelensky at the UN took time to co-host a separate session. I'm going to bring up what the Canadian Prime Minister had to say heading into that session today. And then we'll get some brief comments from Volodymyr Zelensky.
Mr. President, dear Volodymyr, Madam First Lady, dear Olena, Diana, friends, it's an honor to be here. It's a tragedy that we must gather together. And it's a tragedy that we're all committed to reverse. You know, Mr. President, when I joined you a few weeks ago on Independence Day in Sophia Square, I emphasized that your struggle is our struggle. Your cause of freedom, democracy, sovereignty, and the human rights and dignity of every person, particularly children, is our cause, the cause of the 42 nations and more organizations gathered here today. I want to be clear at the outset of who's responsible for these horrors. Putin has caused this terrible tragedy that has claimed in the war lives of millions. He menaces the skies of Ukraine, threatens the cities, destroys the field. Putin has stolen Ukrainian children. Thousands of children have been abducted by Russia. Russia has repeatedly targeted the most vulnerable groups of children, including orphans, children with disabilities, children from poor families. Russian soldiers have entered classrooms and forcibly rounded up children, taking them to Russian schools and orphanages. To lose a child is every parent's nightmare. For the people of Ukraine, it's a horrifying reality. Après avoir bombardé une ville,
They bombed cities and children in Ukraine. They bombed Mariupol. Russian soldiers announced evacuations and brought civilians and children to occupied cities occupied by Russia.
Office has reported on these tactics, the tactics including to indoctrinate Ukrainian children. Children are being falsely labeled with Russian citizenship and passports. A decree to fast-track citizenship, the citizenship process for abducted children has been signed by Putin himself. In the Russian school system, abducted Ukrainian children are exposed to war propaganda and given military patriotic training. Secondary schools are required to send lists of students aged 18 or older for conscription in the Russian armed forces. Each of these inhumane acts are violations of international law. And the 42 members of the International Coalition for the Return of Ukrainian Children are united in our mission. We're committed to the safe return of Ukrainian children, that this must be part of any negotiated settlement. As you mentioned, Mr. President, the coalition has provided Russia and Turkey with an initial list of 339 children to be brought home today. But this is just the beginning. There are thousands more children who've been illegally abducted, who've endured these horrors, who must return home. And as co-chair, Canada will intensify our work with Ukraine, with our European partners and the United States to secure the immediate unconditional return of Ukrainian children. We're investing millions in a HALAS system to support the use of AI in locating and identifying Ukrainian children who've been unlawfully deported. We welcome the recent powerful appeal to President Putin by the First Lady of the United States to consider the plight of children in ending this war. You know, decades ago, a U.S. president led a peace effort with Russia through nuclear disarmament and Reagan adopted the slogan, "Trust but verify." It couldn't be more different, Vladimir Putin and Mikhail Gorbachev. When peace comes, we can't trust but verify. We must deter and fortify. We must start to drive that peace with the sanctions you mentioned. Canada has sanctioned over 300 enablers of the Russian regime, over 3,000 individuals. We stand ready to reinforce those sanctions further with our European partners. And I welcome the President of the United States' call today, repeated today, for secondary sanctions on Russia. Russia must be deterred, I'll finish with this, from ever thinking that they can threaten Ukraine's or Europe's freedom again. We have to fortify Ukraine's forces that have fought so valiantly and for so long. And by marshalling the strength of the coalition of the willing, President Stubb, I salute your leadership in that, dear Alex, we can help secure a durable peace. But that peace is only truly peace with the reunification of children with their family, with their homeland, and we will not rest until that happens. Slava Ukraine.
And Zelensky. Also addressed that very issue, the abducted children of Ukraine.
And I urge you, please, in every sanctions package, increase the pressure on those Russian politicians, officials, judges, propagandists, and others involved in child abductions and the attempt to reprogram their minds. All this is known, the camps where abducted children are taught hatred, the institutions involved, even the structures of Russia's state church used to erase children's Ukrainian identity. And everyone who does not close their eyes and acts in response defends humanity. Everyone in Russia who is involved in child abduction, re-education and abuse will be sanctioned. Sanctions packages are never easy, but adding those guilty of crimes against children makes this war stronger and gives it moral force. Dear friends, in Turkey, we gave Russia's representatives an initial list of 339 children, clear data, just a small part of the thousands we must save. So far, Russia has done almost nothing, not even given real information about these children. They refuse to give real information, neither to us nor to international organizations. Please, let the result of this coalition meeting be support of initiatives to find, return, and reintegrate our children, and real pressure on Russia through sanctions. We must turn attention into action. We need your support and support of partners in the General Assembly And this year we'll introduce a resolution condemning the abduction and deportation of children, forcibly taking children from one nation and trying to re-educate them for the benefit of another is an obvious crime. The UN must say this clearly once again. So the crime must be stopped, the felons must be held accountable, Ukrainian children must be brought home. Thank you to all the countries standing with us, with our families, with Ukrainians, with our Ukrainian children. Slava Ukraini. Thank you.
Okay. Let's take another break while we get ready to shift into another gear and head down another route as we continue our coverage of today's top news stories.
Greetings, brave mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, let's talk about some other stuff that is still actually Trump related. This is also related to Charlie Kirk. I need to get an additional link lined up for this, though. Bear with me one moment. This is about Turning Point USA. Something going on in Oklahoma that I think is very interesting. Well, let me just... Okay. Here, the high schools in Oklahoma, it looks like, are going to get Turning Point USA chapters. Every single high school. I lost my tab. Here it is here. Okay, I finally found it. My apologies as I get reorganized here. So this is from the Oklahoma State Department of Education. And, oh, I need to find you the clip too. Here it is here. This is Ryan Walters, Oklahoma State Superintendent of Education, who says that he wants to put Turning Point USA chapters into every single high school across the state. The politicization of the education system. We're going to play the clip first before we dig into it. Here he is.
I'm excited to announce today that every Oklahoma high school will have a Turning Point USA chapter. We have seen the outpouring from parents, teachers, and students that want to be engaged in the meaningful work going on at Turning Point. I'm excited to announce today that every Oklahoma high school will have a Turning Point USA chapter. We have seen the outpouring.
So a brief clip. Now here's his, here's Fox 25 reporting on this. I'm going to run this clip to show you how it's being covered in Oklahoma tonight. Come on, computer. There we go. Superintendent Walters says he wants a TPUSA chapter on every high school campus by end of the year.
Walters announcing there will be a Turning Point USA chapter on every high school campus in Oklahoma. Turning Point USA was founded by political activist Charlie Kirk. Fox 25's Paige Taylor here with us live in the studio. So Paige, tell us, how are school districts reacting to this?
Well, Wendy, I reached out to multiple schools and only 2 got back to me saying they have no comment on this. OSDE tells me right now there are 18 high school Turning Point USA Club America chapters across Oklahoma, but Walters now wants that number to include every high school in Oklahoma.
We want to make sure that our kids understand the principles of the country and further the work that Charlie was doing.
On Tuesday, State Superintendent Ryan Walters announcing there will be a Turning Point USA Club America chapter on every high school campus in Oklahoma. We asked if this is a mandate or a recommendation.
We're saying, look, we need to have a Turning Point chapter in every school in Oklahoma. We want to be the first state to do that, so we're going to continue to assist all those starting these programs.
Walters says there will be repercussions for school districts who refuse to have a TPUSA chapter on their campus. Do you know what the repercussions would be at this point if someone says no, they're not going to do this?
Oh yeah, I mean, we would go after their accreditation, we would go after their certificates, so yeah, they would be in danger of not being a school district if they decided to reject a club that is here to promote civic engagement. Absolutely, they would be violating the law, they would be violating the rules set forth to them by our agency. So yeah, everything would be on the table in that scenario.
Walters says he had worked with Charlie Kirk previously to bring the organization to Oklahoma schools. He sent a letter to parents on Tuesday morning listing these 3 steps to follow when starting a chapter.
So what we've seen is we have been inundated with requests from high school students, parents wanting a Turning Point chapter. So, I mean, there's no reason we shouldn't have one in every school.
Walters says the goal is for there to be a chapter on every campus by the end of the year. Reporting live in studio, Paige Taylor, Fox 25 News.
Okay. Politics. That's partisan politics, man. And they're going to mandate it. See, it just depends on your view, right? What you think is right. Okay, here's the guy's full statement. Ron, well, there's going to be repercussions if you do not comply. Wow. Okay. Dear parents and guardians, I'm excited to share an incredible opportunity for students across Oklahoma, he says. Turning Point USA has made it possible for any student to start a TPUSA club, America High School chapter, giving young people the chance to organize, lead, and advocate for American values in their schools. American values. So MAGA values are American values, and if you don't have those values, I guess you're just not American. Whether your child attends a public school, private school, or is homeschooled, they now have the tools to start a chapter and make their voices heard. Starting a chapter is simple. Gather at least 3 students from the same school. Complete the official chapter charter agreement. Once submitted, the group will be officially recognized as a Club America chapter. From there, TPUSA will support chapters by helping them gain official recognition or registration from their school, connecting student leaders with a dedicated field representative to serve as a liaison between the school and TPUSA, assisting in securing a teacher sponsor and providing sample constitutions and bylaws where required by school policy. Chapters also receive an activism kit filled with pins, pocket constitutions, handbooks, and other materials, access to leadership positions, and exclusive event ideas, and ongoing guidance and mentorship to help student leaders build a strong, positive presence on campus. We will be putting TPUSA on every high school campus in Oklahoma. Charlie Kirk inspired a generation to love America, to speak boldly, and to never shy away from debate. Our kids must get involved and active. We will fight back against the liberal propaganda pushed by the radical left and the teachers' unions. Okay, our fight starts now. For more information on how your child can start a Club America chapter at their school or homeschool, please visit, and then it's got the URL. And if you are unsure if your campus has a chapter, follow at Club America Southern on Instagram. For Oklahomans, Ryan Walter. I'm sure it's entirely nonpartisan. They're going to fight against the radical liberals and the left and the unions. Okay. God bless America.
Greetings, brave mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Don't you forget, if you don't get yourself a TPUSA chapter at your school, there will be repercussions. We don't know what they're going to be. Except we're going to go after your charter and your funding. You will comply, or else. Ryan Routh has been found guilty in that attempted assassination of Donald Trump when he was out playing golf, you may recall. Ryan Wesley Routh. His trial came to an end today. He tried, and in a very dramatic fashion, I might add, because he tried to stab himself in the neck with a pen after being found guilty by a jury. And his daughter screamed. She was in the courtroom. She yelled at, "Dad, don't hurt yourself." And then shortly after, Routh was returned to the courtroom to complete the proceedings. They brought him back in handcuffs, no blood visible. He was wearing a white shirt, so it would have been apparent, but no blood on the shirt. So it didn't look like he was able to actually harm himself. It took the jury about 2.5 hours to reach its verdict. We have a report here. Let's run this from, I believe, is this NBC? We'll pick up their feed. No dramatic video from this that I'm aware of today. I don't think that there were cameras there.
Stab himself, or did stab himself in court right after the verdict was read. I'm going to go back to Aaron Gilchrist. Aaron, let us know what you know, and I know this is sort of a fluid situation. We're just getting this information now.
It is, Tom. We have several producers in the courthouse here trying to get eyes on exactly what's going on. I'm told that Ryan Ruth tried to kill himself in the courtroom with a pen, that he tried to stab himself in the neck, and that's why his daughter started screaming. She was screaming during the verdict. She was screaming, "Dad, don't do anything. Dad, I'm going to get you out." She started cursing, apparently, at the judge in the middle of the courtroom as all of this was happening. Again, we can point out that Ryan Ruth was representing himself. I was in the courtroom during the entire closing arguments earlier today. Ryan Ruth seated at a table by himself with a big stack of documents, presumably with pens or pencils as well at that point. And so it seems as though as this day was wrapping up, he was able to grab a pen and try to stab himself in the neck with that pen, as I'm being told by our producers who were in the courthouse as the verdict was being read here. He, of course, marshals in the room tried quickly to restrain him. He was struggling against the marshals in there, and ultimately they were able to drag him out of the courtroom. A dramatic culmination, Tom, to a trial here that we know at different points was something that was frustrating for the judge. Today, during Ruth's closing arguments, I heard the prosecutors object at least half a dozen times. The judge interjected during his closing arguments several times to stop him from saying things that he was not supposed to say, to redirect him to make sure that he was only discussing evidence that had been presented to this jury, admonishing him and at one point telling him that he needed to stick to the subject matter at hand and not try to introduce evidence that had already been ruled inadmissible in some cases or reference other laws that were not a part of the jury instructions in this case. And now we have this word, Tom, that there's been this dramatic moment in the courtroom where the suspect, the defendant here, in representing himself and hearing the verdict that was 5 counts guilty against him, he tried to take his own life with a pen in the courtroom, trying to stab himself in the neck, Tom.
Aaron, you said you were in the courtroom for those closing arguments. Walk our viewers through exactly how he would have been able to do this. I know you laid out a little bit of what you remember. Some of the sketches that we're seeing from inside court show him shackled up. I don't know if they're handcuffs. I don't know if he's shackled to the chair, what that is. This is the image that I was talking about right here. We put up for our viewers one of the sketches. Right. How far are the marshals from this table? So basically what I'm getting at is how much time would he had to grab that pen, stab himself in the neck before they got to him?
So I think the sketch that you were seeing with him in shackles was from earlier on in the proceedings here. Today, he was not shackled. The judge did not want the jury to see him in a prison uniform. He was wearing a suit and tie in front of the jury today, as has been the case throughout the course of the trial that lasted about 8 days with testimony, 9 if you count today with the closing arguments. And in terms of the room layout, Ruth was seated at a large table by himself. His standby counsel, the lawyers, the public defenders who were supposed to represent him, was seated at a little table just a few feet away from the table where he was sitting. Prosecutors on the other side of the room. There were U.S. Marshals and court security in the room during this moment. And so it would have been really just a few seconds that it would have taken for court officers to be able to grab Ruth. At this point, we don't believe that he was able to injure himself with that pen, even though he did sort of put it at his neck and try to stab himself with that pen. I'm told that there were a few stabbing gestures that were made in that moment, but none that were successful. And at this point, it seems as though order has been restored in the room, Tom. The U.S. Marshals have been able to remove Ryan Ruth from the courthouse.
Aaron, do we know if the jurors witnessed that as well?
Did the jurors see that? Yes. This was in front of the jury. The judge was still reading the verdict and talking in the moments after this happened. And so the jury would have seen this, as well as Ryan Ruth's family. We know that his daughter and his son were in the courtroom. We believe there was one other relative in the courtroom as well, sitting on his side in the back row. There were just 2 rows in the gallery, if you will. And those 3 people were seated in the corner nearest to the side of the room where Ryan Ruth was seated. And as I said, Tom, it's being reinforced to me that she yelled out, the daughter yelled out as this was starting to unfold, "Dad, don't do it." And so obviously this dramatic moment in the courtroom here, not the ending that we would have expected or predicted, Tom.
Yeah, Aaron, I know you're still gathering some information. You're talking to your producer there. We're going to come right back to you as soon as you have new information. I do want to those moments,
Okay, so
those dramatic moments.
Yeah. So that guy's not getting out of jail. That's the bottom line there. Pivot over to Kazakhstan, where we are seeing Canada's public safety minister on the hot seat. He admitted in a recorded and leaked conversation that municipal police forces do not have the resources to participate in the Liberal government's gun confiscation. He continues in this recording to say that the budget for it is capped at $742 million. And this is creating, a wave of controversy and giving the Conservatives some political ammo to use to attack the Carney government. Says, I just don't think municipal police services have the resources to do this. And then he's speaking with the constituents. Says, I think you're right. How many billions of dollars in debt are we, right? And then the constituent says, we're just going to keep adding to the debt.
How much do you guys think this is going to cost?
Says, how much do you think do you guys think this is going to cost? The budget for this was $742 million. $742 million. $3/4 billion. That was the budget. That's their budget. Yeah. So that's their budget. So let's double it. Let's be honest.
Let's double it. Let's be honest.
It won't go that far. We're capping it, he says.
We're capping it. That's it. We're not.
Okay, so that's the leaked recording. Carney today saying he still has confidence. Let me show you the headline. Still has confidence in the public safety minister. Here it is. Even with the leaked conversation coming out. Says here in the leaked recording, the safety minister also offers to pay the acquaintance the difference between the federal government's compensation and what he paid for his now banned firearms. It says Carney is sticking with the policy to appease voters in Quebec. Carney says, I have confidence in the minister. He is doing important work. Carney said, and this is on the CTV site, I'm just reading, said when asked by reporters Tuesday in New York, because he's there for the UN, adding the federal government is fulfilling an election promise with the gun buyback program. And the Toronto Star first reported on this audio recording of this conversation between the minister and his tenant on Sunday, where he cast doubt on the program's effectiveness, saying he would approach the issue differently. But of course, he's doing the bidding of the government itself, even though he doesn't seem to have confidence in the program himself. He says, obviously, the comments asked by host Vasi Kapelos, like Canadians should accept the buyback program if he can't explain its justification. The safety minister said he believes in the program, but said some of his comments were misguided. He says, obviously, the comments are just in private conversation, not to be taken at face value. Whatever that means. It means he got caught. That's what it means. It means he was speaking a little too honestly in private and saying things he would not say in public because it goes against the narrative or the policy of the government that he serves. So this is a 20-minute conversation I had with someone I've known for many years. I'm sure if you were recorded in a private conversation, there may be things you would have said or things, the way you say it may be different than in a public setting, he said. Apparently. Asked if Canadians can feel confident in the effectiveness of the program in light of his leaked comments. I have trouble pronouncing his name. That's why I just keep calling him the public safety minister. He said the buyback program is part of a multi-pronged approach. Quote, I have not said it won't be effective. I've said it would have. He said, I would have done it differently. Quebec is an important part of it, but it's not just Quebec. This is a move to ensure that the safety of Canadians is paramount. We have an issue with gun violence right now. We see it on our streets. We see it across the country. He added. And what else do I have on this? I think that's basically it. Oh, I think there's a thing with Polyev with regard to this too. So let me just yank that down. Yeah, pretty sure that Polyev made hay with this today. Here it is here. Okay, let me bring this up. Do we have him? Yes, we do. Leader of the Conservative Party, Pierre Poilievre, using this to attack.
By freeing rampant gun criminals and wasting billions of dollars of police and border resources targeting law-abiding, licensed, trained, and tested firearms owners, this government has overseen a 130% increase in violent gun crime. But over the weekend, the Minister of Public Safety accidentally told the truth, and he was recorded doing it. He said that the gun grab is not worth the money, that it will go over budget, and it would be better just to lock up the criminals, but that they're going ahead with the bad policy because it's good politics. Does the Prime Minister agree?
I think that's actually an old clip. I think this is it here. This is the one we really want to hear. I'm pretty sure. I apologize. Let's try this one, shall we? We won't spend too much more time on this.
That minister did have a real conversation about guns. Unfortunately for him, he was caught on tape. Caught on tape, admitting that the gun grab is a waste of money. Caught on tape, admitting it would go over budget. Caught on tape, admitting it would be better just to lock up the gun criminals who are actually doing the crime. Why is it that Liberals only tell the truth when they don't think anyone is listening?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, let me reiterate, it's actually a good thing that this conversation was caught on tape. And in fact, it will counter every single claim that this leader of the opposition is making. Let me be very clear, Mr. Speaker. Canadians want responsible gun control. We are in a position as a government, we committed to it during the last campaign, Mr. Speaker. Canadians gave us a mandate on April the 28th to ensure that we move forward on this program, and we look forward to its implementation.
Well, there's a hot button issue. Okay, we're going to take a short break, come back, and take another look at what's going on out at the Universal Ostrich Farm.
Greetings, brave mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
So the drama continues out at Universal Ostrich Farm in Edgewood, BC, where the Canadian Food Inspection Agency is preparing to cull the remaining 398 ostriches because of their avian flu policy. And as I indicated earlier in the broadcast, protesters out there have been attempting to put pressure on companies by having people call en masse those places of business that are engaging in contracts with the federal government to provide services like fencing, vehicles, and hay bales. It wasn't clear why the hay was being trucked in. It was stated earlier that the trucking company that was bringing hay bales there had been convinced to turn their vehicles around, but subsequent to that, after that, we've seen trucks arrive and actually deliver hay bales to the back end of the farm, which I think the protesters were for a while unaware of, but then took note of, and now we are seeing video of the hay bales being used to construct a big wall to surround what it appears to surround the birds. So it looks like they're going to put the hay bales up to create a barrier there so that people can't really have a visual of what is likely about to happen, which is the cull itself. Perhaps. I am speculating, but they do have this big wall there, as you can see. And I don't think drones are allowed to fly there at the moment. I think that's been designated a no-fly zone of some kind. That's what I've heard. I have not confirmed that information, but that has been stated by some of the protesters, although I know that they, in weeks recent, have been flying their own drone. The authorities were certainly flying a drone there yesterday. So we'll see what happens. This is not over yet. The property has been secured. A warrant has been executed on the property itself. The owners, Katie Pasitny, her mom, they were inside the pen with the ostriches. You should take note too that is supposed to be a quarantine zone. In any event, they were inside the pen with the ostriches, refused to come out, finally arrested, taken into custody, later released with conditions. The farm now secured caution tape or police tape, if you want to call it that, put up to demarcate areas where people are not allowed to go past onto the property itself. So it looks like, as you can see, the ostriches over here, quite a distance away from the roadway, quite a distance away from any of the people or protesters still on site out there. Katie Pasitny and her mom have been released with conditions. I did take note and showed you a little while ago that they are back at the farm, but not on the other side of the tape. I'm not sure what conditions at this point have been placed upon them. It's also not clear what, if any, charges have actually been laid against the two of them as they continue their efforts to convince the CFIA somehow, or to put some sort of a legal obstacle in place that will prevent these birds from being culled. And again, if you really want more in-depth information on what is going on out there, I encourage you to go back and look at our previous programs on this issue, because I think we went really to pretty extreme lengths to get you extensive information, to get you closer to the truth about what is really going on out at the farm, not just one side or the other, but the actual unbiased truth. Now, I don't know if this is an editorial, but maybe some perspective on this from the way we've approached covering this story. It was a story that, frankly, in the beginning, I just didn't have any interest in. I did not want to cover it. I was trying to avoid it. But some of our viewers contacted me, repeatedly asked for us to take a look at what was going on out at the Universal Ostrich Farm. So finally, I did dig into it a little bit, and we did an interview with Katie Pasitny's mom out at the ostrich farm. And the information that she conveyed to us, I think, was factual, pretty much at the time. She was pretty open, and we brought that to people. But even within that interview, some people didn't like what we were presenting, which was just the information. Not a political narrative, not political activism, just the information. But that wasn't what the people who were pressuring me to do the stories wanted me to do. They wanted me to toe the line. They wanted me to lie. But that's not what we do here. I went out and dug into the information. And then because of the information I did with Katie Pasitny's mother, who also helps to run that ostrich farm, explaining what the issue was, I started to dig in deeper and deeper and deeper. As I peeled back the layers of the onion, I got to a core of a story that was interesting indeed and very, very political, tying in not just what the CFIA is doing, but also into what is going on the U.S. side of the border. There has been a lot of U.S. meddling in this from the MAGA political movement. And some of the key players within MAGA, RFK Jr., Dr. Oz, and this multi-billionaire out of New York City, John Catsimatidis, who also owns WABC Radio, which used to be the flagship station for ABC until he purchased it. It's a massively powerful radio station with huge reach. That reach even extends into parts of Canada. And that is why the voice of what's been going on at the farm has been amplified in such a dramatic way. It's largely because of him. But Catsimatidis is a big MAGA supporter. Catsimatidis and his radio station, they carry pro-Trump, pro-MAGA, conservative, if you want to call it that these days, or at least the progressive messaging of the MAGA political movement. So he's in that camp, and he's gone essentially to work, pushing the Universal Ostrich Farm story out there and trying to exert pressure so that the U.S. government would get involved and prevent the cull. And indeed, some key players, RFK Jr., Dr. Oz, of most notably, have become involved. Now, I just bring this stuff up again because some people keep messaging me as though it's like my story or that I've got some stake in this thing. And I really don't. What happens, happens. I'm just not doing what some of these other live streamers are doing to get money, to get clicks, to get the support of a side in this political struggle out there. I've just been reporting the information. Some people don't like that because the information doesn't fit their narrative. But I didn't go into it with an agenda. I've been just presenting the information. It's just the truth is uncomfortable and inconvenient, especially for the protesters, because it's just not exactly the story that they've been spinning. They've been selective about the information they've been presenting. They're not being completely honest with the public. I'm pretty certain that as they're making these phone calls to these companies to get them to pull or withdraw services from the government, that they're not really telling them everything that's going on. And I think some of the protesters out there themselves are not really fully aware of what the whole story is, because they're bought in to the information that's being spun up from the political activists who are out there protesting. And that's why they're there. They're political activists. So it's not about truth for them either. Maybe it doesn't need to be. They want an outcome. They want something. They want something political out of this. What that thing is, I think, is not entirely apparent. You might think that it's just about saving the ostriches, but it's pretty clear to me that there's a lot more going on out there than saving ostriches. It is about politics. It's about international politics. It's about the policies in place on both Canada and the US with regard to agricultural supply management, the poultry industry in particular, the food industry in general, tariffs, non-tariff barriers, and liberalism, and the war on liberalism, and the MAGA movement. And it goes on, it goes deeper than all of that too. But I'm just telling you, don't shoot the messenger. I just gave you the facts as they unfolded for me. And you can deny the facts as they've been presented. You can choose to ignore them if you want, but the facts were the facts were the facts. And you can sit there and message me all you want and say that I'm lying, that no birds died because they were infected with the virus. But the fact of the matter is 69 of those birds did die. They're buried on the farm. And I know that to be a fact because Katie Pasitny's mother told me so herself. Katie Pasitny has said so. It's been stated by the owners of the farm, but right now, that's just another fact, one of many, many, many facts they choose to ignore as all of this is going on out at that farm, Universal Ostrich Farm. You don't have to, you can agree or disagree with the culling policy, but the facts are the facts are the facts. And you're never going to get to the truth, and you're never going to get good policy unless you're dealing with truth. And that's in short supply out there on that farm. Maybe from both sides, maybe from the government and the protesters. You can decide. But if you're going to make that kind of decision, I hope you're doing it with complete information, or information that is as complete as possible, and not some narrative that's spun up by one political group or another. And that's what my goal here has been from the very beginning. Nothing more, nothing less. And people are saying, you're not going to win this one, Rick, thinking that I'm on the side of the government or something. And that is not the case. I'm on the side of the people, and I'm on the side of truth. I'm on the side of journalism. Honestly, that's what we're fighting for here. And I fear that the person who said, you're not going to win this one, Rick, maybe, and not more than one, I think they may be right. Not because, even though they'll say that Rick won this one because the birds are being culled, maybe even tonight, or certainly maybe tomorrow. But no, I'm not winning. If the birds are culled, I don't win. If the birds are not culled, I don't win. And I don't lose either way. You know how I lose? I lose if people don't get the right information and end up living a lie. And where that's concerned, I will not comply. So message all you like. I'm not going to lie. You want the lies? Go watch the other guys. They'll make you feel however they want to make you feel. Probably angry. Donate to them if you want. They're asking for the money too. And whatever. I'm not going to lie. Will not. I've been tricked, deceived, led to believe things myself, where I've made statements in support of this or in support of that, not so much for political reasons, but because I thought things were the truth that turned out not to be. And I'm trying to avoid that in this very challenging information environment. I will not lie, knowingly lie. I won't do it. Apply all the pressure you want. I'm not going to do it. I'll be back tomorrow night, and we'll continue to dig into this story when it's actually newsworthy. And we'll cover it as a news story. Simple as that. So go ahead. Message, apply your pressure, criticize, insult. I remain dedicated to my craft, journalism, and the pursuit of truth. See you tomorrow. Love you guys. 7 p.m. Eastern on the flip side.
Well, I heard old Cosmo howling last night up on the hill where the moon shines so bright. He was singing a tune, lonesome dogs cry about freedom, running and touching the sky. If I leave here tomorrow, would you still remember me? Cosmo's free, running wild, wild as the wind can be. He's a free dog, he's a free dog, he's a free dog. Cosmo's got them paws that just itch to roam. He's chasing his dreams, he's far from home. With a heart full of love and a spirit so free, he's living his life wild and carefree. If I leave here tomorrow, would you still remember me? Cosmo's free, running wild, wild as the wind can be. He's a free dog, he's a free dog, he's a free dog. He's got the stars in his eyes, the wind in his fur, a tail that wags like it's never heard of a blur. Cosmo's on a journey, he's got no chains. He's running through fields, breaking all the lanes. Now the night's getting cold and the sky's turning gray, but Cosmo's still out there, he's miles away. He's not looking back, he's got his path to tread. With every step, he's leaving his path. If I leave here tomorrow, would you still remember me? Cosmo's free, running wild, wild as the wind can be. He's a free dog, he's a free dog, he's a free dog. So if you're feeling lost, just think of Cosmo's run. Remember his spirit, his freedom, his fun. And maybe one day, when you're feeling alone, you'll find your own freedom and let your spirit go. If I leave here tomorrow, would you still remember me? Cosmo's free, running wild, wild as the wind can be. He's a free dog, he's a free dog, he's a free dog. Stars in his eyes, the wind in his fur, a tail that wags like it's never heard of a bird. A heart full of love and a spirit so free. He's living his life wild and carefree. He's got the stars in his eyes, the wind in his fur, a tail that wags like it's never heard a word. Cosmo's on a journey, he's got no chains. He's running through fields, breaking all the lanes.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.